Let the record reflect that the meeting is reconvened with all members present. Carmelo Vitale is on vacation, and Bob Catanello is due in on the 8:08 train. He was delayed at work, so we will hopefully see him shortly. So please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Minutes for approval. Executive session, May 14th, 2012.
Mayor, I move the executive meeting minutes as amended.
Second.
We've already been discussing executive. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Sukamoto?
Yes.
Dr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Lynx?
Yeah.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Motion for the regular minutes of April 23rd, 2012.
I move that as amended.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Mrs. Sukamoto?
Yes.
Dr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Lynx?
Yeah.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Welcome. Our tried and true residents here in the middle of July. Just a couple of quick announcements for Mayor's thing. Community Garden Advisory Committee under new business. We'll be making those appointments. So that'll be at the end of the meeting. A couple of things for August. We will only have one regular council meeting in August. That will be on August 13th. It will not be an August 27th meeting. And we have the town meeting scheduled on August 6th to cover utilities, in particular the electric utility and what it really means to be in the utility business, which most towns are not in. Things going on in the world around us. The Township of Morris is having hearings on August 1st and August 8th at 7 p.m. at the Morris Township Town Hall, which is at 50 Woodland Avenue. And this is to discuss the ordinance and modifications that will affect the Honeywell property, the corner of Columbia Turnpike and Park Avenue. So that's the Honeywell property is looking for zoning changes, and that could have impact, obviously, for Madison as it affects Park Avenue and also the current interchange, which is one of the worst in the state, coming off Route 24 onto Columbia Turnpike. So again, that is August 1st and 8th. As a follow-up to the agenda item of the last meeting, which was related to the county applying for funding for the bike path, I had a conversation with Dave Helmer, the executive director of the Park Commission. What the Park Commission has heard Madison loud and clear. They are proceeding with an application just for design and engineering and not for construction. What that will allow them to do is, one, the feasibility of the bike path, to see how feasible it is to get the full bike path in there. I had a very interesting suggestion from a resident as possibly doing part of it. So they will go through that process, and in that they will get resident and citizen reviews. So there'll be plenty of time for people in the neighborhood and people on the other side that are bikers to provide input to the process. If they don't get any funding, it is dead for now. They are not going to use any county money to fund the design or the construction of the bike path. Also from the Park Commission, the whitetail deer management program will be affecting the neighborhood of Madison, and that they included this year is Lewanika Park. Lewanika Park is not in Madison, but it certainly borders the area. And this is an actual hunt. It is not a recreational hunt. It is professionals. And for back page here, sorry, as I find my right spot, Lewanika Park will be is scheduled for October and November, December. You can get more information on the process on the County Park website. A couple of events that are happened in town the past week, and an event that is coming up. Last week, Quest Diagnostics had their annual benefit softball game, and they were very nice to move it from Fairleigh Dickinson right into Dodge Field to center of town. It was a great game. The proceeds from the game will be split between the American Cancer Society and the Mayor's Wellness Program, so some of that money will stay directly to help us become healthier, and some will go to work towards a cure for cancer. And just for the record, for those that saw it, I had one of the worst first pitches ever. Luckily, they let me redo it, and I almost got to home plate, but I was 1 for 1, had a clean single to left, so that was all right. So I cleared my name a little bit. Columbia Day was this past Sunday, as in yesterday, and for the first time ever, it did not rain. So it was a beautiful turnout for the Columbia residents and in Madison and the area, and this is a co-sponsorship between 2 foundations, nonprofits that support the Columbians in the area and also back at home in Finlandia, where most of the Madison Columbians come from, also in Madison Rotary Club and the Madison Area YMCA. And there was several hundred people there. And another event coming this Saturday, and hopefully council members have received the invite. If not, I'll make sure you get another copy out at Bethel AME Church at 3 p.m. They're celebrating the renovations that have been going on there. And if I can have Mr. Jacoby, just a little follow-up on the requests around the settlement and the police issue.
The settlement dealing with the Casperine case, I've asked the attorney that was representing the borough through the municipal excess liability carrier. He is going to be providing me, hopefully later this week or early next week, with a fully signed and executed copy of that agreement, which contains confidentiality clauses. We're not permitted to discuss it, but once we get that agreement, I will so notify the public, and it is free for under Oprah. Anyone in the public, members of the press, can file an Oprah request and we'll be able to get a copy of it. So I anticipate by the next meeting that will be available.
Thank you.
And the disclosure of the amounts will be in that agreement.
Very good. Reports from committees. Public safety, Ms. Tsukamoto.
Yeah. Thank you. I would like to remind residents that open burning is not permitted due to the extremely dry conditions we have been experiencing. Any outside barbecuing should be done very cautiously and never leave the grill unattended. Also, National Night Out to promote neighborhood spirit and heighten crime and drug prevention awareness is scheduled for Tuesday, August 7th. The police department invites the residents to participate in this annual event, and please contact the police department if you are interested for additional details. Thank you.
Thank you. Utilities, Dr. Esposito.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Both the electric and water continue to do system maintenance and upgrades throughout town, including some of the newer developments that are in the area, including Cook Avenue and Park Avenue. And also, just again, brief reminder, even though we've had a little bit of some rain, still try to maintain your odd, even days of watering and conserving water, because water is a precious commodity, and we need to keep it and conserve it as best we can. Thank you, Mayor.
And also to follow up on, we have the town meeting scheduled for August 6th, Monday. And what time was it? I forget, 7 at 7 p.m. And we'll cover, again, the impact of owning our utility.
Mayor, I'd like to remind all the residents that the Green Avenue first meeting will be held on July the 31st at 8:15 a.m. right here at Hartley Dodge, 2nd floor, right down the hallway. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Don. Finance Borough Clerk, or I didn't see the train pull in, but and we'll see if when Rob gets here, if he has a report. Does anyone have anything to cover for Rob? Community Affairs in, Mr. Landrigan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder, the farmers market has about 4 more weeks on Waverly Place. It'll then be moving over to Green Village Road on August 23rd. The DDC is working with Project for Public Spaces to submit an application to the American Planning Association to get Waverly Place and Lincoln Place named as great places in New Jersey. And finally, from the Senior Advisory Committee, the 2012 Summer Seminar Series, which began on July 9th, has been very well attended. There are 6 more programs in the series, which is co-sponsored with the Madison Public Library. The best bet to get more information on these is to go to RoseNet under Borough Governments, go right to Senior Services, and look under Events. There's a complete list of the events that are coming up. And as I always mention people at these meetings, always look at the Madison Arts and Cultural Society's website. They have a lot of events coming up during the summer and fall. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Health and Public Assistance, anyone have anything to report for coming up?
No report this evening.
Communications and petitions.
Yes, Mayor, the council has received 5 communications. An email received July 10th from Bill Kennard of Green Avenue regarding the Green Avenue reconstruction plans. An email received July 10th from Joseph Balzerwak of Beach Avenue regarding opposition to the traction line extension. Another email July 20th from Marty Epstein of Morristown regarding bicycle commuting. A letter received today, the 23rd, from Paul Zitelli of Alexander Avenue regarding support for the traction line path, and a letter received today, the 23rd, from Richard Zipper of Green Avenue regarding an alternate bike or walk path.
Thank you. And now this is the first of 2 invitations for discussion for people, the public, to step up to the lectern and to speak on anything on our discussion agenda, which we have only 1 item, which is traffic safety, Madison Junior School, or resolutions that are listed. A second opportunity will happen later in the meeting when you can talk about things that are not on those 2 categories. And again, remember to step up there, state your name, your address, speak right into the microphone, as I keep hearing from our residents that they can't always hear the meetings, especially as people are at the lectern, so you might need to move the microphone up or down so we pick it up. Is anyone wishing to be heard on anything on the agenda at this time? Please step forward. Sam.
Sam Cerciola, Park Avenue. I just like that resolution 191. That change order for $37,000. What was that all about?
Bob, can you address that change order, final payment change order for Cifelli and Son for the 2011 roadway reconstruction?
Good evening, everyone. The Cifelli proposal was based on a bid contract that was awarded to Cifelli for Pine Beach, Rose, and Cedar Avenue reconstruction, drainage improvements, curbing, and obviously the gas mains were replaced up there as well. The final change order is a customary process that we undertake in municipal government and according to local public contracts law, which recognizes the fact that there are certain increases and certain decreases over the bid items, which are unit price items in the contract, in all construction projects. And when you have an item that runs over, such as asphalt or curbing or drainage improvements, it's recognized by the state as a legitimate change, and it needs to be confirmed via resolution at the conclusion of the job. And so we're concluding the job at this point in time. We are confirming the contractor's unit prices and any change orders that came along the way. One of those change orders, there's a couple of those change orders that were related to the contract, and ultimately, it would be our recommendation to move forward with that $35,000 change because it's a result of both unit price changes and change order changes, which are legitimate adds slightly out of the original scope. Now, trying to think what else I can add to that in terms of information. When we originally bid the contract, it's just, you should note that between the low bidder and the next low bidder, there was a better than $60,000 spread, and so, I mean, Cifelli really bid low when he originally got the contract, and there's no recognition of that in local public contracts law or this particular final change order. However, just keep that in mind in terms of making that final resolution as we've recommended.
And this was within the amount that was appropriated for the project?
That's correct.
And we designed this project in-house, so there were savings up front.
It's within the original cost estimate and the appropriation for the contract. So no additional funds have to be appropriated in order to make that final change order award to Cifelli.
Thank you, Bob.
And
Jim?
Bob, weren't there some utility conflicts that were met in the field because of that?
Very
which
difficult.
Happens all the time.
Very difficult, very challenging contract. I think everyone's very happy with how it turned out, but there was a lot of drainage changes and a lot of gas conflicts along the way, which resolved on the fly because we don't have the data when we design the contracts. And again, I don't think a whole lot of time was lost, but clearly Cifelli had to go away and come back on several occasions because there was just too many people working on the street with public service there as well. So that was a factor in him getting things done as quickly as he thought he was going to get things done. Absolutely.
Thank you. And record reflect that Rob Catanello has arrived. Thank you. Long day of work.
No, you don't know the half of it. Yeah.
All right. Anyone else wishing to speak on anything on the agenda, that one agenda item or any resolutions listed for consent agenda? Seeing none, I close this part of the agenda and move on to agenda discussions. Traffic safety, Madison Junior School. Jeannie?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. As many of you know, that the crosswalk in front of the junior school on Main Street has long been a real traffic hazard. Many of you probably recall that just not too long ago, that there was an accident that happened right at the crosswalk and a student was hurt. So in the past couple of years, we've been working with the Board of Education, working with the junior school staff and students on potential safety improvement measures. The pedestrian traffic for that crosswalk actually had increased in the past year and a half or so because of a new sub shop right across the street. What we have here is a resolution for us to support the Madison Police Department's recommendation to the New Jersey Department of Transportation to improve safety around the junior school right on Main Street. Just first want to talk about, in addition to these things that we're recommending here by the Madison Police Department, we have worked with the school in the past couple of years on a bunch of other measures, such as curtailing pickups and drop-offs right on Main Street. Also, we have extended the time for the crossing guard to be right at that location during the afternoon hours. Also, plenty of education materials and conversations took place between the police department, the Board of Education, the schools, and the students and the parents. So what we have in front of us is a resolution for the Madison Police Department to recommend to the Department of Transportation. We're hoping that prior to school opening in September, we would like to see the placement of a portable stop for pedestrian sign. You see them at many places in residential neighborhoods, but since Main Street it's a state-owned highway, we're asking for their authorization for the placement of a portable sign right there on Main Street. Secondly, to install a no stopping or standing sign right across the street. This is the eastbound of Main Street, right in front of Mama C's sub shop. So no cars will be able to park or stand right there. And also, number 3 is to trim trees to increase the visibility of the signage that are already there today. That we're hoping that we'll get some response from the Department of Transportation, hopefully by the end of August. There are other measurements that the police department is recommending that we're hoping that they can look into, perhaps not by August, but in the near term. And there are 4 measures that we're recommending. One is to place a roadway marking on both eastbound and westbound, indicating this is school zone ahead. You have seen some of those signs in other parts, but certainly not on Main Street, and we believe this is really warranted right near the school. Also place hash markings on the north side of the roadway in the shoulder. This is the junior school side to discourage people actually stopping and standing right there in front of the school on the shoulder. Number 3 is to lower the speed limit from 35 to 25 on Main Street in the area while school is in session. And the last one is for the New Jersey Department of Transportation to install flashing signals warning that school zone is ahead for both eastbound and westbound traffic, also while the school is in session. We believe that these are all good recommendations, and we're hoping that all my fellow council members will also agree to support all these police department's recommendations. So we will approve this resolution, and we will also send copies to our legislator for their support of these measures. Any
Comments,
questions?
Bob?
Yeah, I will support this 150% for the simple reason that I've had to bring some of the students who've been struck by cars at that intersection up to the hospital. It's a very dangerous spot in town. I do know that Morristown Hospital on Franklin Avenue behind the hospital took similar steps because doctors and nurses were being struck there. And it does pay off. It's a nuisance, I'll tell you that right now as you're trying to drive by that. You have to mind these obstacles and slow down, but it's well worth it. So I would support it.
Other comments? Yeah, I think everything you noted are things we would do if it was our road.
Exactly.
And we even put the pedestrian sign out there at one point, and DOT told us to remove it, so this is the steps we have to take regretfully, so hopefully we'll see some action. And to clarify, the no stopping and standing, that is between the driveway, pretty much between the driveway coming out of Stop and Shop up to the crosswalk, because that causes a blind spot on the crosswalk, but it won't be a negative on the business because you could park beyond the crosswalk. There are, after a safe distance, parking is allowed right there. That's it.
Also, Mayor, just want to add that a similar request was submitted to the Department of Transportation June of last year, and we did not receive any response from that request. That's why we're going this route with a resolution, and hopefully we can get their attention this time.
Very good. So this again is listed R192. Right, moving on to ordinances for hearing.
Ordinance 17, scheduled for hearing, was introduced by title and passed on first reading at a regular meeting of the council held on July 9th, 2012. It was posted and filed according to law, and copies were made available to the general public requesting copies.
I call the ordinances for second reading and ask the clerk to read said ordinances by title.
Ordinance 17, 2012, ordinance of the Borough of Madison amending Chapter 190, 25B of the Borough Code regarding mandatory testing of water meters larger than 2 inches.
I open the hearing. Does anyone in the public wish to comment on ordinance 17-2012? Done.
Don Brunner, 20 Redmond Drive. Just what is the purpose of this ordinance?
It's mainly geared towards commercial, so the larger meters, which when they fail big time. You know, if you have a meter in your house and it's not spinning as fast as it should be, there is some loss of revenue to the borough. But when you're talking about a 2-inch meter and larger for some of the big users in town, the impact is far greater. So this ensures that the water used is paid for. And so the meters are tested on a regular basis. And I can, from personal experience, the example is Madison area YMCA, both our buildings fall in this category. And the previous requirement was 5 years. We had 1 meter was at 98%, which is well within the area. Nothing had to be done. Another meter was failed and was replaced. So now we make sure that we're paying for the water we're using.
And most residential users are less than 2 inches?
Yes. Anyone else wishing to comment on this ordinance? I close the hearing.
Yes, Mayor, I move ordinance 17-2012.
I second it.
Council discussion? Seeing none, vote.
Mrs. Sukamoto?
Yes.
Dr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Lynx?
Yes.
Mr. Catalanello?
Yes?
Mr. Lantrigan?
Yes.
I declare the aforementioned adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. And now we are up to second round of invitation for discussion. And as mentioned before, this is now the liberal rules. You may comment on anything that's appropriate. Step up to the lectern, state your name, your address, speak into the microphone, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Is anyone wishing to discuss anything?
Yes, sir, Cielo Park. Before you start the clock, Mayor, because it's going to be a quick meeting, I'd like to yield a minute and a half to my friend, Mr. Zipper, and yield to my friend, Mr. Picola, and give up my 3 minutes. Thank you.
Well, we can't give minutes away, but thank you for your Christmas in July. Anyone else wishing to be heard?
My name is Richard Zipper, and I live on Greenwood Avenue. I'd like to thank Council President Sukamoto for improving pedestrian safety in town. I've noticed a trend towards when roads, not necessarily in Madison, but in surrounding areas of Madison, they're trying to cram as many cars into the roads as possible and pushing the pedestrians out. I see a lot of road improvements going on in the area where they eliminate the shoulder. The shoulder is for people riding bicycles. It's kind of timely because of the bicycle discussion you had last week. And I think that when a new road project is planned or being worked on, I think there should be, especially if there's no shoulder on the road, there should be maybe a couple of feet added to the road so that a shoulder can be built for bicyclists. And I just think it should be something that should be considered in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things we have adopted is the complete streets concept, which means from going forward that the idea should not be when you redo a road, you're thinking about cars, that you are thinking about pedestrians, bicyclists, and everyone else. So that will be reinforced as we go forward with every road design. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Chip?
Thank you. Jim Finelli, 42 Dean Street, Madison. I had a couple comments, just to clear up something with the meters. Anything larger than 2 inches is not owned by the Madison Borough. That's why we have an ordinance for them to test our meters. We test our meters that are lower than 2 inch.
Thank you for this.
Going to meters, I had a problem with, in discussion with Sal, licensed water operator and foreman, about the new meters we're looking to buy that are automatic readers. And from our discussion and from the discussion we've had plenty of times with Ray Cody and Jim during negotiations especially, when the town has no money, I'm wondering how this is a justified spend. When we have meters in every house now, we're reading meters. Do we feel we're reading them wrong or we're getting wrong reads? Where's the actual improvement to put these automated readers in? What's it going to do for us that we're not already doing? Is it going to read electric that's being used that we're not reading, or water that's being used? I just want someone to explain to me where $2 million plus is an actual improvement, and what we're going to get out of that by going to an automated reading system.
Jimmy, what do you think?
Jim, I'll go over a presentation I gave to council with you on the side at any time. I have a question for you. Public utilities, do they have regulations on the time frame that residential meters get replaced?
They sure do.
They do. And that's something that we try to adhere to, but we don't have strict guidelines on, is that correct?
That is correct.
So what we have seen is that we did a census of the water meters that we have out there, and given that census information, we believe, and I've shared this with Sal, that a lot of the water meters are older and therefore are not really reading 100% of the water. So in that financial analysis, and I'll sit down and I'll show you.
But how many meters did you test to find out they're not reading actual reads?
We didn't test them, Jim. We went with information on the age of the meter and typical standards on how that meter tends to stop reading accurately after a certain number of years, which is why the BPU has regulations for public utilities that mandate replacement of residential meters.
So why don't we replace our meters with the meters we have?
So one of the things we want to watch, we don't want to get into a question-answer debate, but a couple of key things, the total project, more of the savings will come from the electric side because of the demand use and other things that we can't do right now.
Okay.
The fact that water meters also are outdated, the fact that we're not going to eliminate positions, but we're one of the few places that actually still go door to door to read meters. We can be far more efficient and better use of our manpower. So those are a whole host of things that went through that, and as Jim pointed out, he'd be happy to share that and maybe be good to maybe possibly repeat it for the whole staff down there so there's a better understanding, because you're the ones that will end up with the questions of, you know,
and maintain it.
Yeah, and you're not only maintaining it, but you're the face of the water department.
Right.
And so someone's going to come up and say, what is this all about? And we need to give you all the information so you can do a good job there.
Okay. And just one other thing, if I could. In the last few years, the borough's been more than willing to be transparent with all the borough salaries. And I have no problem with that. I'm wondering if maybe the borough can put a piece in the paper about how much man hours, time is spent down at the MRC, how much money we're spending, and how much is being done by the borough now. So that someone can take an appreciation for the borough employees and the money that's being spent down there, or actually the money that's being saved down there by all the borough employees doing work that either wasn't included in the original plan or being done over if it wasn't done right.
I think that's a good, just as a ongoing update with a lot of things going on still at the MRC, that I think would be a great idea to share as an update of, I don't know what the project is, but how much was done in-house and what we're doing.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Carmen.
Excuse me, Mayor. Just regarding that last comment, a lot of the borough employees are actually donating their time too on weekends. And I think it's fantastic and they should be recognized.
Thank you. And we should, not only the borough employees, but I think a list of all the
Sure, absolutely.
ton of volunteer hours put into it. Yeah. Thank you.
Carmen Pico, North Street. I'd like to ask Mrs. Sukumoto, since she's the liaison to the police department, if they can patrol the bicycle lanes on the road, because today I went to the Main Street sub, and when I left there, I was going up towards Kings Road. There was a landscaping truck and a car parked in the bicycle lane, and there was a bicyclist riding in the bicycle lane. I'm coming, the bicyclist is coming. The bicyclist cut in front of me, and I almost hit the bicyclist on the car because those two vehicles were parked in the bicycle lane. If we're going to have bicycle lanes for bicycles, and the police should be more aware that if people are parked in those lanes, for whatever reason, they should be ticketed, because it's an unsafe situation to have the bicyclists cut in front of the cars because they can't get through on the bicycle lane.
I will take that back to the police department.
And
Thank you.
I guess we may need clarification, because I know tickets have been issued for parking in bike lanes, but I'm not too sure if that bike lane is a restriction on parking, or is it a reminder that this is an area for bicyclists. Certainly a moving car should not be ever in a bike lane, but I don't know if it precludes people from parking, but we should get a clarification so we can educate the public on that. And whether there's a bike lane or not, always be wary and keep wary and keep your eyes open for pedestrians and bicyclists. Thank you, Carmen. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Seeing none, I close this part of the meeting. There are no ordinances for introduction. Consent agenda resolutions.
Consent agenda resolutions will be enacted with a single motion. Any resolution requiring expenditure is supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any resolution requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All resolutions will be reflected in full in the minutes.
Mayor, I move consent agenda resolutions R-189-2012 through R-196-2012.
Second.
Discussion?
I have a comment. Don't need to pull out, but I have a comment while Mr. Vogel is here regarding 191. Question is simple. Do we have any guidelines on change orders?
Jeannie, the state law is extensive in terms of its guidelines for change orders, yes.
I'm sorry, our internal guidelines as to when you need to bring that to the council?
Anytime it varies from the actual bid price or bid breakdown, it's been our process to bring that to the council.
Okay, and in this case, as you know, the change order was approximately 7%, which is not that much, but with other projects, might be a lot more. And I'm hoping that in those cases, they're coming to council for prior approval before we do this at the end.
I understand your concern, and I think particularly with regards to change orders that are out of scope, in other words, not a scheduled unit price item, that's appropriate.
Yeah, I think that's the guideline. There are some, such as utilities, that are found that if we brought them back to the council, it would possibly delay the project and end up in higher ones. And so if it is a change of scope, such as widening of the street and things like that, correct, those obviously have to be done. And I think we also made the request was that anything gets shared with the liaison to Public Works and Engineering, okay, so those can be reported as it goes along.
Yeah. Please, if you have specific concerns on other projects, just give me an email or a phone call and we'll go over it in detail.
Certainly, that would be good.
Yeah. Bob, just a quick question on this one. This almost sounds like a reconciliation at the end of the project as opposed to a true work change order. Is that more the case with this?
It's a combination. There are two additional change orders, which were changes in scope, and there are a number of unit price changes, which are part of the scheduled original contract. Okay, and local public contracts again anticipates that those scheduled unit prices will change for every contract, and if we go over the base contract amount, one that was awarded, local public contracts also says the governing body needs to approve that.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Thanks.
Any other comments? I'll just want to point out Resolution 189, which has turned the towns teal. Typically, we do a resolution, they requested that we not do this, but I just want to alert everyone. Turn the Town Teal is an awareness campaign for ovarian cancer, so in the month of September, you'll see teal ribbons throughout the town, just reminding people about the silent disease. And for women, that if it's caught in the early stages, their survival rate is 90 to 95%. So that's why there's a campaign. I didn't want that to slip by about the importance of early detection. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Sukamoto?
Yes.
Dr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Lynx?
Yes.
Mr. Catalanello?
Yes?
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Unfinished business? None?
Mayor, I do have a question. Maybe Jim and Matt can answer this. This is regarding National Night Out. The question is that I understand that we do not need a resolution to approve the event, but I thought years ago, my understanding is that by going through a resolution or council approval process will cover for insurance purposes, especially an event like National Night Out. There are a lot of volunteers, they're in a lot of neighborhoods, and we really have to have that. Is that something needed or not needed? Just want to make sure.
I believe that, from my experience with other municipalities, the municipal excess liability carrier and the Morris Joint Insurance Fund will cover you regardless. But it's still a good idea to do it because it does put them on notice, and it's further indicia that the governing body has endorsed it. It won't preclude coverage, but it just assists you. God forbid something happens and there is a lawsuit.
So we should put something on the record that we actually approve this, or what's the correct wording?
When is the National Night Out going to be?
It's before the next council meeting.
I think under new business, you can just, you've alerted it, the governing body's here. If no one objects to the National Night Out, it's noted for the record that the governing body is aware of it. And, God forbid something happens, at least the governing body is aware of it, there's a record of it, and we can notify the insurance carrier.
Okay. Mayor, can we do that on the new business?
Yep. Approval of vouchers?
Okay, public safety, $21,647.38. Health and public assistance, $3,892.41. Public works and engineering, $135,888.99. Community affairs, $1,319.86. Finance and borough clerk, $61,290.35. And utilities, $1,386,244.35. Total is $1,610,283.34.
I move the vouchers for approval.
Second.
Discussion? Vote?
Mrs. Sukamoto?
Yes.
Dr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Lynx?
Yes.
Mr. Catalanello?
Yes?
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Okay, new business, so we have two items. I will, appointments requesting consent to the council for the Madison Community Garden Advisory Committee. Committee members for 3-year terms. These are all not full terms, so they expire on December 31st. So 3-year terms expiring December 31st, 2014. Michael Barrasso, Andrew Brown, Margaret Eckler-Malashak, Lisa Starnes-Kunish, Stephen Stockert, Chris Kellogg, who will serve as the initial chair. Future chairs will be elected directly by the committee. 2-year terms expiring December 31st, 2013. James Casola, Charles Courtney, Megan McAuliffe, Brian Monahan. And 1-year term expiring December 31st, 2012, and hopefully we'll get them to re-up on January 1st. Colleen Castellano, Mary Ellen Capola, Jeff Thomas, and Charles Van Buskirk. Motion?
And
I'm sorry, and also Rob Catanello as council liaison.
Thank you, Mayor. I move.
Second that.
Discussion?
I have one question. Any of these representative from the schools?
No, but I think they're all gardeners.
This is only 14 members, right? Or is it, oh?
It is the full complement
Okay,
because
it's
the
already
council
a full
liaison is
complement?
counted as on this committee.
See, we always talk about the community garden, it's a good education tool as well, so it would be nice to have somebody from the school as a member.
I think they can probably incorporate the education component in their objectives without necessarily pulling someone in. All right, vote please.
Mrs. Sukamoto?
Yes?
Dr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Lynx?
Yes.
Mr. Catalanello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
All right, National Night Out, Jeannie?
Yep, move that we support National Night Out to be held August 7th, Tuesday, 2012.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? We'll call a vote.
Mrs. Sukamoto?
Yes?
Dr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. Lynx?
Yes.
Mr. Catalanello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
And before we move to the next, Rob, did you have a report for finance that since we missed you?
I did not this week.
Okay. Thank you. So Bob, you get to do the honors tonight.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
37 minutes.